So thanks for logging into the course. I hope that this is an okay substitute for actually meeting face to face. Thanks again for understanding that I couldn't be there today. What I have planned right now is to go over this conclusion drafting worksheet with you guys. And you can do this a couple of ways. The first way that you can do it is to kind of follow along with the video and pause it whenever you want to type things or write things down, or you can just listen straight through and then draft afterwards. Of course, the choice is up to you. So let's just go ahead and get started with the worksheet. So I've typed everything out here for you, and this is mostly review. We've talked about all of these elements before, but it works great if you kind of put things together and then start drafting as you're actually thinking about these different processes that we've talked about, okay? So in terms of writing your conclusion, remember the hourglass figure that we've been talking about. The conclusion will be the triangle at the bottom of the hourglass, which I have put right here for you to see. So you're going to start off really specific by restating the thesis in fresh language. And then, of course, you want to provide the broader significance for your readers. That means that you're going to branch out into a broader significance that answers questions like, who cares? Why is this even important? Why should I believe you or read your paper? That kind of thing. Restating your thesis in fresh language sounds easier than it actually is. You can try doing a few different things. So to get you started, of course you could vary up your vocabulary, right? You could start changing some words around, but you could even change the structure. So instead of just changing the structure within one sentence, you might even try restating the thesis into several sentences, not just one. So within your thesis, if you have your subject, and then you have your claim, and then perhaps you've got some evidence, you could break those different parts of the thesis up into separate sentences, or you could even expand on those different elements within different sentences. So the first thing that I want you to try drafting is at least 3 different ways to restate your thesis. You can pause the video and do that now, or you can just keep following along with me and then draft when the video is finished. I've also uploaded this document into our course files page. That way you can pull it up if you miss anything in the video or if you want to type directly on the screen. The second part of the conclusion drafting that we need to focus on is the significance of the topic. So you need to answer several questions to get you started. I've listed some questions here, and these are just to get you thinking about, why is your issue important? Why should your audience read the paper? Why should they believe you? And so you want to answer questions like, what's at stake? Why should people take notice of your issue, even if they aren't initially interested by it? Because for some of your readers, they might not be completely interested, or they might not buy into what you're saying. So you really want to make sure that you make it relevant for them and mention that in the conclusion. What if nobody followed up on the issue? So for our example of the Syrian refugee crisis, the significance would be, well, what happens if we don't talk about it? What happens if we don't do anything about it? These people need places to go. They're certainly going to go somewhere. So how can we be proactive about it? That kind of thing. Is there a specific call to action you want to provide for readers? So in other words, what's the thing that you want for them to do or to say, to feel, to believe in, to vote for? Make that very clear for them, especially in the conclusion. What rhetorical appeal will be the most effective? Now, this isn't a question that you're necessarily going to answer in your conclusion, but it's a question you need to ask yourself when you're drafting. Is this the place to drive home your point with an emotional undertone, so maybe some pathos, or is this the place where you're going to present that airtight logical argument or the logos? Or is this a place where you can do a solid combination of the two, which is something that I would recommend? You also need to think, how can you tie back the conclusion to your intro? Will you revisit the anecdote that you included in the introduction? Will you remind the readers of the crazy but true stat that you mentioned in the intro? Or will you end with a quote or explain the one in the intro? After you've considered all these elements, I want you to try free writing your conclusion for about 10 minutes or so, and at the end of that 10 minutes, you're going to highlight any specific sentences or strategies that are working for you. That way, when you start drafting the actual conclusion in your essay, you've got a starting place. So again, my recommendation for you is to work through this worksheet, actually draft different thesis sentences, actually draft down answers to these questions here, and see what you come up with. And at that point, hopefully you can come up with an idea or a plan for your conclusion.